It's World Suicide Prevention Day.
It is, and we wanted to get some good information to you, some things that you can use, tools in the toolbox, so to speak. So to do that, we brought in some experts. We've got Sarah Nelson with Foundation 2. She's their Chief Operating Officer. Good morning, Sarah.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thanks for spending some time with us. We wanted to talk about mental health because this year has really put a lot on people's plates mentally.
We're definitely seeing that. I mean, suicide is the 10th leading cause of death in the U.S., according to a CDC report that came out earlier this year. And so it's really important that we continue talking about it, especially through the pandemic, through what we've dealt with, the storm in eastern Iowa, the economic stressors, the political stressors, all of the things that we know that contribute to mental health being challenging for people is present in a lot of lives right now.
Sarah, I'm glad you bring up the phrase talk about it, because that's really why we're doing this today. There is such a stigma around mental health, and it all of a sudden has become the topic that if you say it out loud, you have to whisper it. What steps can we be taking just as regular citizens to erase those stigmas so we have topics like suicide and mental health are common conversations?
So the most important thing to do is to keep having those conversations. Mental illness and mental health is something that is very, very common in almost every household. It is something that most people deal with someone they love, a friend, a family member, a colleague. And so having open conversations about it is the most important thing that we can do to reduce that stigma. Letting people know that you hold space for them to talk about it, asking, is there anything I can do to help? Thanking them for opening up to you, letting them know that you're there when you need them. These are really simple, straightforward things that anybody can do for someone in their life to let them know that you're willing to talk about those things and those things don't scare you.
Sarah Nelson joining us this morning from Foundation 2. Sarah, you mentioned that, and it reminds me of those first few days after the derecho, and even through COVID, where people were posting on Facebook, if you needed to talk about something, if you needed a hot meal, we were there for each other, we were friends for each other. Another thing we could be doing for each other is looking out for maybe signs of some mental challenges, maybe suicidal tendencies. What are some indicators that we need to be on the lookout, whether it's our loved ones or ourselves?
So one main thing is if you start to see someone in your life withdrawing more, if they regularly post a lot on Facebook and all of a sudden you haven't seen anything from them for weeks, if they regularly text you, if they regularly call you, if they're not showing up for events or things that they would normally be very excited to, starting to notice some of those things as indicators of, this is somebody I want to check in with. This is somebody I want to make sure that they're doing okay. It can be as easy as sending them a text saying, hey, I'm just thinking about you, I'm doing okay. Picking up that phone and giving them a call, but just kind of paying attention to those people in your life and how you know they normally operate. And if you start to see some changes in that can be a real indication that they're struggling. And one thing that I think is really important is to remind ourselves and everyone around us that it takes strength to ask for help. It is not a weakness. It's harder to overcome that stigma and say, I need help, I need support, than it is to try to do it ourselves.
And speaking of that help and that support, Foundation 2 is here for people. You guys are there offering crisis phone counseling.
Yes. So 24/7, you can call 319-362-2174 and speak with a qualified crisis counselor about anything that you identify in your life going on as a crisis for yourself or someone else in your family that you need help with. It doesn't have to. I think sometimes people wait until it feels like what they consider to be a full-blown crisis. Mm-hmm. Please know that anything you're struggling with is a totally acceptable reason to call and reach out for help.
Sarah, why don't we hit that phone number one more time?
It's 319-362-2174.
Sarah Nelson with Foundation 2. Thank you so much for spending time with the Morning Scramble this morning on World Suicide Prevention Day and talking about mental health with us.
Thank you.
Z102.9 is here on World Suicide Prevention Day. Join us in our commitment to learn ways to prevent suicide.